Hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Bowman, and I am going to tell you about my marketing research project over advanced automotive concept. This is going to be for Nick Thomas. He is the new CEO of the company. A little background on the company itself. Zen Motors is the name. It is a multinational automobile manufacturer based out of the United States. It is slowly losing market value for the corporation since the new foreign productions are starting to increase. And Nick Thomas is brought into the company in the new part called AAC, also known as Advanced Automobile Concept. And he is going to do some surveying and research on figuring out why they're losing value and what they can do to change that. So, looking over the company's history, they are looking over Nick Thomas's history for sure. Excuse me. He has been working in automobile for most of his adult years, actually. So he is one of the most qualified men out there in today's world, and he believes that they should keep up with the foreign companies. Well, Zen Motors is not wanting to switch. There are more of the large motors, the SUVs, the vans, the more like the four-seaters, and not so much the economy, the small, or even like the one or two-seaters, which the foreign companies have been creating. And the foreign companies, what they have over Zen Motors is the fuel efficiency. The smaller your car, the more likely you're going to get more mileage on the highway or even in the city. I know, for example, some cars such as the C-Max in the Ford industry, on the highway it gets 108 miles per gallon, and then in the city it gets 87 miles per gallon. Now, if Zen would switch to this, their market would just increase tremendously. But a few years back, there was a huge increase in gasoline. Well, Zen Motors did not take advantage of that by switching to the smaller compact cars, so they kept with the bigger cars. So Nick is coming in here and he's looking over the reports and he says this is what needs to be done. Well, they put him on a budget. It says you can do this survey and you can use this many respondents, but you can only use so much money. Alright, so he decided to go in a way where it reaches more people. He takes an online panel approach. An online panel is basically through emailing, or if they mail you a piece of paper, it's going to have an email address on it or a web address on it where you can go look at your answers. Now, these answers, there'll be about questions, 40 to 75 long questions, so you definitely need to spread some room for that. So he started doing, looking into the reasons, what are the objectives of this research. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Alright, a survey was done online for advanced automobile concepts. The survey determined what prospectives automobiles feel about, like global warming. Do they believe it's real? What is their effect on choice of car if they went with this? Fuel prices. Will this make a difference? Will they remain high? Is people willing to buy cars even though cars such as SUVs, even though the gas prices are around $3-4 a gallon? And so you have to think about those, and that's what Nick is going to do. What will the prospective buyer's opinion be about these cars in the next few years? Or at least these type of cars. Like say before, they're more on the SUV side. So what if Zen Motors took a different approach and went for a very small automobile? Or just a small automobile. The difference between very small and small. Very small is more like a one-seater. And a small mobile is more like a two-seater, maybe 3, 4, depending on the style of the car. But basically, you really can't fit more than 2 people in it. Or would they go for a hybrid compact size automobile? And hybrids are becoming very more popular nowadays because of energy saving, actually, like energy efficient. They can plug into a wall, and you can't plug into the wall of your house, but if you have an outlet on the side of your house, most outlets on the outside of the house are like 110, if not 120 or 220, which what these cars will do. And if you go around to some like the bigger campuses, like big universities like UNO, UNL, UCF, and University of Texas and Tennessee, you're going to start seeing more places with outlets to plug cars in, and that's what people are looking at, because if you don't use gas, well, then you're not harming global warming or even adding to it. And people who do believe in global warming, that's what they look at. And then what attitudes differ in the market segment? I mean, you have to look at demographics, age, gender, income, marriage, and you have to look at their education. Like, do they have a high school degree? Did they graduate from college? Maybe they went on and got their doctorate. How about their lifestyle? Where do they live? What size of hometown is it? Where is the hometown located? And that's really important, because if you're a suburb, you can have a hometown of like 1,500 people, but if you're a suburb of a city of 1 million, well, more than likely you have a job in that city, so you're looking for a car that looks great. Not only looks great, but mileage is awesome in the city. So these are very important things to keep in mind. And they're coming out with different cars. Nick put together a list of what cars people might like, and I'll tell you, there's about 5 of them, and they are Super Cycle 1-seat model, Runabout Sport 2-seat model, Runabout with luggage 2-seat model, Economy 4-seat model, and Standard 4-seat model. Now each of these, Super Cycle gets 120 per gallon on that in the city. Runabout's usually 90 in the city, 80 on the highway. With the luggage on a roundabout, 80/70, 80 city, 80 highway. Economy 4-seat model is 70 in the city, 60 in the highway, and the standard 4-seat is 60 in the city and 50 in the highway. So these are really good cars to look at or even invest in. And if they don't want to change or even build new cars, what they can do, they could take the cars they have now and then just shrink them, or make the motor smaller where it's not using as much gas. Or I'm not 100% sure how you can turn into a hybrid, but if they are able to do something like that, then they can keep their models and yet keep up with the market. With millennials today, we're very indecisive, and not all of us, but a good chunk of us are. So picking a car is more complicated than anything. And it's not just that how does it run or how many miles does it get. It's how it looks. Is it going to do what I want it to do? And we don't necessarily think all the time about the prices, or, oh, well, if it gets 80 here, well, that's okay, but it just doesn't look great. But the one that gets 40 in the city and 50 on the highway, well, it's like, whew. So we're very indecisive. So keeping up with this market is not very easy for Nick Thomas. And so it is his job to find a way of getting everyone's opinion. So that's why he turns to the online panel. Now, this online panel, like I stated before, is about 40 to 75 questions. And he goes to he takes about 1,000 people to start out. He does work his way up to 20,000, but he starts out with 1,000 to figure out what is it about certain cars that makes people want to buy them? Or would they go for this certain type of car? So he listed questions that would help figure out their age, their marital status, what their income is, what kind of education they have, what did they learn from that education, what type of background do they have, are they car owners, does somebody in their family own a car, are they borrowing a car, are they more of they're not car people at all? I mean, these are very important questions for a company such as Zen. And so the expected cost to do something like this, he's starting out at $1,000, so he's only got $10,000 to make a sample of what people want in this market share. Because if Zen loses this market share, well, they're going to lose about anybody associated with them. And they go, in order to have a good online panel, you have to pick a good company. So they go for either company A or company B, and company B is they have at least 10 years in the business. They don't necessarily harass people, but they are on top of people getting surveys done. They remind them every 48 hours until the survey is done. Company A, on the other hand, sends an invite through email every day, and that could be a little much for some people, and you don't want to scare them away or think you're harassing them. So Nick Thomas goes with company B to figure out, like, okay, we need to get these people out here and this much information to these people and figure out what they're made of. But overall, in a conclusion, this research will help make it more clear on the respondents' feelings, and take people who are similar to respondents and think about those who are in the world every day and thinking, okay, well, if these respondents feel this way about these cars, maybe we should change. So they are finding alternatives to gasoline. They're going to figure out the hybrid, and maybe they're going to slowly get away from SUVs. Not completely, because that is their store brand, but if they switch to smaller cars, they will see an increase in their market. And this can all be done by Nick Thomas, who is very well known who is very well knowledgeable for taking on projects like this. Well, I hope I gave enough information for you guys on a little understanding on Zen Motors and Nick Thomas and I wish him nothing but the best. I hope you guys have a great day and happy holidays.